Greetings from Brother Stephen. I'm a disciple and witness of Jesus Christ. To all the inhabitants of the earth, I present to you as a witness the gospel of the kingdom. In this lesson today, we're going to be going over just the name Adam in Genesis chapter 1, verses 26. If you go to the King James Version Bible, and again, Genesis chapter 1, verses 26, that Oxford 1769 edition, which is the #1 sold Bible or even book in the world even till today. It reads, "And God said, let us make man in our image." And what I'm going to show you that they also did is in this verse, they removed Adam name out of the scriptures. We pronounce it Adam. In the Hebrew, it's just pronounced Adam. It has an accent on it, but Adam, Adam. Sometimes I say Adam, sometimes I say Adam. So first thing we're going to do, again, this is like a word study. We're going to open up our Blue Letter Bible. We're going to search Genesis 1:26, then hit that search button. Then this screen will pop up. You got Genesis chapter 1, verses 26. We're going to hit that Strong's button. And then when you hit that Strong's button, a green arrow should pop up and it should open up the reference numbers for each word or term in that King James Version Oxford edition. But what we're going to focus on is this word man from the Hebrew reference number 120. So you click on that 120. This is the next image that's going to pop up on your screen. There's that Hebrew reference number 120. This is that Hebrew word that man is translated from. And as you can see, when you do a transliteration of this word, it is not man, but Adam. So we're going to go back really quick to Genesis chapter 1, verses 26, that falsely translated King James Version, Oxford edition of 1769, and we're going to make that correction. And right now, we're only worried about the name Adam. We know Elohiym belongs here, but we're just focusing on Adam. So it says, "And God said, let us make Adam in our image." Now, just to confirm that the word that should be there is Adam and not man, when you go to Genesis chapter 2, verses 23, we have the word man there. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called a woman because she was taken out of man." And that word man does not come from the Hebrew reference number 120, but it comes from the Hebrew reference number 376. So there should be so Genesis, scroll back up here, Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 and Genesis chapter 2, verses 23, both should not have the same word man, because as you can see, they have man in both verses, but two different reference numbers. And then I just have that name pulled up for you here. Let me see, I'll pull this up for you. There we go. And that is that 3876. And as you can see, that is not the same as Adam. There's Adam again. There is Ish. You pronounce this Ish. So now we're going to get back to that name Adam, because one of the things I want to point out is, as you can see, the etymology of Adam's name basically come from the same word. And I'm sorry, the pronunciations of the words is a little different. This is Adam. This is like Adamo or something like that, but Adam. But as you can see, the letters are exactly the same. But when we go to this H119, where where it says Adam names kind of derives from. And then there we go. If you click on that, this is the next screen that'll open up. As you can see, it's just a slightly different sound between Adam and this is supposed to be like Adama or something like that. But anyway, we'll keep going. So what we're going to do next is go to a scripture in the Bible so that we can understand what is the difference between this Adam and this Adam. What is the difference? So the next thing I have here is a verse pulled up for you with that Hebrew reference number H119. I have a couple different verses here so you can understand the difference between, again, the name Adam and the word Adam. So it says, and these are Exodus 25:5. It said, and ram's skins dyed Adam. But this word Adam is translated as red because it is referring to a color. So this Adam is a person. This Adam is a color. And then I have two more verses here for you. That's Exodus 26:14 and Exodus 35:7, where they're using that word in reference of a color. So one of the things that mean is Adam names derived from the color red, and that is one of the reasons why his name is Adam, because he is red. So now we're going to go back to Genesis chapter 1, verses 26, where it says, and God said, let us make Adam. He's calling him Adam because he is red. So basically, I just have here the definition of red in English, and as you can see, it means red color or pigment. Pigment will refer to the natural coloring of your tissue or skin. Now, some people, when they see the word red in the Bible, they try to say it means ruddy, as in light-skinned. But I have this image here just to kind of demonstrate that we all know that ain't true. Even in America, they use red skins to represent brownish red melanated people with color, not white people. But then I'm just going to go over, give you a little bit more information how you know this red is referring to a brownish reddish color versus what we would call a ruddy or white person. And you can possibly, some people say you can see the pink or red in their skin. How do we know that this is referring to a brownish red man, a colored man, versus a Caucasian man? We're going to go over how did Adam get his color. And to do that, I'm just going to go to Genesis chapter 2, verses 7. And it says, and Jehovah Elohiym pottered Adam. I'm just reading this in the correct translated version. Of the dust of the ground. And see, this is the word we're going to focus on here, ground. And as you can see, this comes from the Hebrew reference number 127. We have that Hebrew reference number 127 open up in the concordance. And this is the word ground comes from, translated from. And its transliteration is Adamois. As you can see, if you take this letter off, those next three letters says Adam or Adam, but this is pronounced Adamois in the Hebrew. And of course, as you can see, this word Adamois also derives from that Hebrew word 119, which means a red color. So this is just not any color ground. This word ground literally means red soil. And this is where Adam actually get his name from. It really does not come from the color red. It comes from the Adamois because he was created from red soil. So Adam gets his name from the soil that he was pottered from. And now it doesn't take a genius to figure out. All you have to do is Google red soil, and you'll have an idea of Adam's pigment when he was created by God. So next, what do I have here? We just finished reading through this verse. It says, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish, over the sea, over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Again, that is that King James Version, Oxford edition, that is falsely translated. Now what we're going to focus on is Genesis 1 and 26, but my translation of that particular verse. In other words, so when people read it, they understand it. It applies to people to this day. So people in this current day and age, when they read my translation, they'll understand exactly what it's talking about. So we begin at verse 26 again, and it says, and Elohiym said, let us make Adam. And now what does Adam mean? A red man in our image. Now what does it mean? Adam was created in the image of Elohiym. First off, if this is your first time tuning in to one of my videos, I did a study called Elohiym, not God. Let me pull this up. There you go. I did a study called Elohiym, not God. In other words, I'm letting people know that word God should not be in Old Testament scriptures, but the actual names of God should be there. And not God, not Lord. His actual name should be there because every last one of his names have a meaning. But when I did this study on Elohiym, we discussed who is Elohiym, and that Elohiym is not an individual member, but he's many members that make up one body. And at the head of that body is El, who is, and that's where Christ comes from. You can say Him represents the body of Elohiym, and that is where he gets all his power and all his might from. That's actually what Elohiym means. El is God, the head of the body. Him is the body. It is where his power and his might comes from. So whatever El says, the body obeys and follows. Wherever El goes, the body follows. So now, getting back to what does it mean that, oh, I'm sorry, I need to go back here. In the study also, we go over that these members actually have bodies. They are not just ghosts floating around in space somewhere. They have bodies. They are from a planet. Their bodies look just like the bodies of human beings, except for they're made out of a different material. Their bodies are not made of the same natural resources that come from Earth. But they have hearts, they have lungs, they have eyes, they have brains, they have the exact same body parts as humans do, but their bodies are made of a different material from a different galaxy. And we go over all of that in that study, and we use scriptures to verify everything I just said. So when you get to Genesis chapter 1, verses 26, when it says, and Elohiym said, let us make Adam in our image, he's about to make Adam in the exact same image as they are on this other planet, with hands, with liver, with kidneys, with a heart, with eyes. But another thing I'm going to point out is what is the, when he said, let us make Adam in our image, if we know that Adam is created from the red soil, what is the complexion of these people from this other planet? What is the complexion of Elohiym, these many members that make up one body? What is the complexion of Christ in the heavens? And to do that, we're going to jump to Revelations chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. And again, I'm reading from the King James Version, Oxford edition. It says, after this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. And the first voice which I heard, as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. And immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And this is talking about Christ sitting on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper. They're talking about his skin complexion. And these are two different jasper stones right here. This is a little redder, this is a little browner, but this is a jasper stone. And it says, and a sardine stone. Sardine stones, in other words, all three of these stones are brownish red minerals, and they're used as precious gemstones. But they're giving you a description of Christ's complexion. I believe in another verse it said his skin was like burnt brass. So in other words, he has pigment, not the pigment of a Caucasian man. So again, we back at Genesis chapter 1 verses 26, and Elohim said, let us make Adam. This is a same thing. We're talking about a brownish red man in the image of Elohiym, because Elohiym is a brownish red people from another planet. It says, and after our likeness, and let him is referring to that person Adam, again, who is a brownish red man. Let a brownish red man have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every rodent that crawl upon the earth. So God gave the earth that he just created and everything on it to a brownish red man. So when we talk about who is the first owner of the earth, God created it, it's his. He pretty much leased it out to Adam under conditions. We know Adam violated the conditions of that lease, but that planet was given to Adam. Now, the next thing I want to talk about here really quick, I'm going to just go a little deeper so you can understand the meaning of Adam's name in its entirety. Basically, I have the name here of Adam, or Adam, however you want to pronounce it is fine. And we're going to translate his name back to ancient Hebrew. And when you take the Aleph, the Daleth, and the Mem, you get these ancient hieroglyphs, which is an ox head, a door, and this represents water, might, blood. So basically what you have here is the first door is death. And again, this is why Adam name means red, because it represents blood. He brings death. And then we're just going to confirm this with scriptures. 1 Corinthians 15, we're going to read verses 21 and 22. Then we're going to jump down to 45 and 49. It says, for since by one man comes death. Who's that one man? His name literally means that. Since by one man come death. The first door, it means everybody who's born through him is going to die. But it says, by man come also the resurrection of their dead. Now, just going back to the study called Taken Out of the Bible, this is 8th. This is literally taken completely out of the entire Old Testament, this name right here. But this is the name, one of Elohim's names in the Old Testament, and it means God crucified. In the New Testament, Christ calls himself, this is the first and the last. Christ calls himself the first and the last, but he says, but behold, I am alive forevermore, which means he was resurrected. So these are literally Christ's Hebrew names. Christ's Hebrew name is not Yahshua. It is not Yahshua. It is Jehovah, because Jehovah means the same thing. Jesus, which is his real Greek name. In English, it is still pronounced Jesus. These names, this is 8th, this is Atah, and Jehovah, they all mean the same thing. They all means God crucified and resurrected. So again, when you look at Christ's name, and again, I go over this in detail in this study. That's why I say it's always important to watch the first study first, then work your way up. Each study is designed to prepare you for the next study. So again, we have the name of Adam and we have the name of Christ in Hebrew. Through the first door is death, then you have El is crucified and resurrected. By one man come the resurrection of the dead. He conquers death. Now we're going to go down to verse 22. It says, for as in Adam, again, all die. Even so in Christ shall all be made alive, again, resurrected. So basically what Christ did, he reversed that curse. And so it is written, the first man Adam was made a living nephesh, and the last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Again, when we scroll back up, Adam was made from the soil, natural material. When Christ was resurrected, he was resurrected and he received that spiritual body again. Howbeit, that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterwards that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthy, and the second man is the Lord, talking about Jesus Christ, from heaven. As the earth, such are they also that are earthy, and as is the heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. And as we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. So now I'm back at Genesis chapter 1, verses 26. And again, this is that King James Version, Oxford edition of 1769. Again, where it says, and God said, let us make man in our image. So, and this is why they took Adam's name out of that scripture, because it lets you know that not only that the God that created us is of color, but the first man he ever created and gave dominion to is of color. Basically, this next image I have here is just to demonstrate whether you're light-skinned, brown, whether you're red or dark-skinned. Today, in the world, they define all of these pigments as these two terms, either nigger or black. It don't matter if you're light-skinned, red, dark-skinned, or brown-skinned. You are referred to as a nigger or black. So even this red. So in other words, the reason they took Adam's names out of the Bible, because today he will be referred to as a nigger or a black person. And with that being said, this concludes this gospel.